In 1938, my grandpa opened his first bank account with $3 and a promise to himself. Never let anyone know how much he had. He kept that promise for 60 years. When he passed, we found cash tucked inside book spines, coffee cans buried in the garden, and a ledger written in a code only he understood. Grandma had no idea. Number 17 on this list is something the banks quietly hoped he would forget, but it built his fortune dollar by dollar. And number 3 is the reason he retired at 55, while his neighbors worked until they dropped. These are not get-rich-quick tricks. They are the hard-won rules of a man who lived through the Depression and trusted no one with his money. Before we start, hit subscribe. Let us count down. Number 30. Never keep all your money in one place. Grandpa learned this the hard way in 1933, when the bank on the corner locked its doors one morning and never opened them again. Folks lined up on the sidewalk in the cold, banging on the glass, watching their savings disappear behind a paper sign. He was 14. He never forgot it. For the rest of his life, his money lived in 3 or 4 places at once. Some in the bank, some in the mattress, some in a coffee can behind the workbench. He used to say if the whole thing burned down, he wanted to still have breakfast money in the morning. It sounds paranoid until you remember he was one of the few in town who never lost a dime. Number 29. Buy it once, buy it right. Grandpa had a hammer he used for 40 years. The handle was worn smooth as river stone, dark from the oil of his hands, and he would sooner lend you his truck than that hammer. His rule was simple. Cheap tools cost you twice, once when you buy them and once when they break in the middle of a job. He bought the good wrench, the good boots, the good saw, and he cared for them like they were family. A pair of leather work boots cost him nearly a week's pay in 1955, and he wore them for 15 years. The neighbors bought new boots every winter. Over a lifetime, Grandpa spent less and always had better. Quality, he said, is the cheapest thing there is. Number 28. The Christmas Club was just the beginning. Long before anyone talked about sinking funds, Grandpa had coffee cans lined up on a shelf in the cellar, each one labeled in pencil. Taxes, tires, doctor, Christmas. Every Friday he came home from the mill, split his cash, and fed each can its share before he spent a nickel on himself. When the property tax bill landed in the mailbox, there was no panic, no scramble, no borrowing. He just walked down to the cellar and pulled out the exact amount, already waiting. He said bills only feel like emergencies to people who did not see them coming. And Grandpa always saw them coming. Every single one. Number 27. Cash talks, and it talks loud. Grandpa never paid the sticker price on anything in his life if he could help it. He would peel bills off a roll slow and deliberate, right there at the counter, and ask the man what he could do for cash today. No checks to clear, no fees, no waiting. Store owners loved him because his money was clean and immediate, and he knew it gave him leverage. He bought a refrigerator once for a third off just because he asked and had the cash in hand. He taught me that the price on the tag is where the conversation starts, not where it ends. Most people are too embarrassed to ask. Grandpa was never embarrassed about money, not once. Number 26. Keep the car until the wheels fall off. Grandpa bought a truck in 1971 and drove it for 22 years. He changed the oil himself every 3,000 miles, greased the joints, kept a log in the glove box in his tiny handwriting. When the neighbors traded in perfectly good cars every 3 years for the newest model, Grandpa just shook his head. A car is the worst investment a man can make, he said, because it loses money the second you drive it off the lot and never stops. He figured every year he kept that old truck running. Instead of buying new, he saved enough to fund a year of his eventual retirement. He was not wrong. That truck was still running the day he handed me the keys. Number 25. Grow what you can. Behind the house was a garden that fed the family half the year. Tomatoes, beans, potatoes, squash, corn along the back fence. Grandma canned all summer, and the cellar shelves filled up with jars that caught the light like stained glass. It was not a hobby. It was strategy. Grandpa figured a packet of seeds costing a dime returned $20 of vegetables, and the work kept him healthy enough to skip the doctor. When grocery prices climbed, his food bill barely moved. He used to stand at the edge of that garden in the evening, hands on his hips, and say, "A man who can feed himself is a man nobody can push around." Number 24. Learn to fix it yourself. Grandpa could patch a roof, rewire a lamp, solder a pipe, and rebuild a carburetor. And he learned every bit of it from watching, asking, and failing. He kept a shelf of manuals and a mind full of tricks. When something broke in the house, calling a repairman was the absolute last resort, not the first phone call. He figured the average family bled hundreds of dollars a year paying other men to do things they could learn in an afternoon. But it was more than money. Every repair he made himself was a little piece of independence. He did not want to need anyone. Self-reliance, he said, is worth more than any paycheck because nobody can take it away. Number 23. Never lend money you cannot afford to lose. Grandpa had a hard rule about loaning money to friends and family. If he lent it, he gave it away in his heart the moment it left his hand. That way, if it came back, it was a gift. And if it never came back, he lost $1 instead of a friendship. He had watched too many good relationships turn to poison over a loan that soured. Brothers who stopped speaking. Neighbors who crossed the street. Money, he said, is the fastest way to find out what a person really thinks of you. He helped people plenty, but he never lent what would break him, and he never let a debt sit between him and someone he loved. Number 22. Never, ever co-sign. This one, he said with a hard edge in his voice, because he had watched a good man lose his house doing it. When you co-sign, Grandpa explained, you are not vouching for someone. You are promising to pay their debt with your own money when they cannot, and then you own the wreckage. He watched his own brother-in-law co-sign a loan for a nephew in 1962, and when the young man vanished, the bill landed on the older man's table and nearly took everything he had. Grandpa loved his family fiercely, but he had a line, and this was it. "Help with cash you can spare," he said. "Never sign your name to someone else's promise." Number 21. Keep your mouth shut about money. Grandpa believed that the moment people know what you have, they start deciding what you owe them. So he told no one. Not his co-workers, not his neighbors, not his own wife, knew the full picture. He drove the old truck, wore the same coat for a decade, and let the whole town assume he was just scraping by like everyone else. Meanwhile, the coffee cans filled and the accounts grew. He said the rich men who flash their money end up surrounded by people with their hands out, and the smart ones stay quiet and stay free. Discretion, he called it. In a world where everyone announces their business, Grandpa's silence was a fortune all its own. Number 20. Pay in cash so you feel it leave. Grandpa distrusted anything that made spending feel painless because he understood that pain was the whole point. When you count out real bills and hand them over, he said, you feel the weight of what you are giving up, and that little sting stops you from buying things you do not need. He watched the world drift toward plastic and easy credit and shook his head because he knew it was designed to separate people from the discomfort of spending. And discomfort, to Grandpa, was a friend. It was the quiet voice that asked, Do you really need this before the money was gone? Cash kept him honest with himself. That was worth more than any convenience. Number 19. The 24-hour rule saved him thousands. Whenever Grandpa wanted something that was not a true necessity, he made himself wait a full day before buying it. If he still wanted it tomorrow and could pay cash, he would consider it. But 9 times out of 10, the wanting faded overnight, and he realized the itch was just a mood, not a need. He understood something the whole advertising world spends billions trying to make you forget. Desire is loudest in the moment and quietest with a little time. That one day of patience, repeated across a lifetime, stopped countless impulse purchases before they happened. Sleep on it, he always told me. The thing you have to have today is usually the thing you laugh about tomorrow. Number 18. Let someone else eat the depreciation. Grandpa never bought a new car, a new boat, or a new anything if a used one would do. He let some other fellow buy it shiny off the lot, take the enormous loss the moment it lost that new smell, and then Grandpa swooped in a few years later and bought it for half. Same machine, half the price, and the previous owner absorbed the worst of the loss. He applied it to furniture, tools, even the house itself, always looking for the thing that had already taken its beating and had plenty of life left. Why pay for new, he asked, when new becomes used the second you own it anyway? Let the other man pay for the smell. Number 17. He understood compound interest when the banks hoped he would not. Here is where Grandpa got quietly brilliant. He grasped deep in his bones that money left alone to grow does not add up. It multiplies. He would sit at the kitchen table with a pencil and show me. $1 saved young was worth $10 saved old because time did the heavy lifting, not him. He started putting money away in his 20s, small amounts, faithfully, and let the decades work. The banks were happy to lend you money at compound interest, he said, but they were not eager to teach you how to earn it on your own side of the ledger. He learned it anyway, and that slow, patient snowball became the foundation everything else was built on. Number 16. Pay yourself first. First pattern break, and it is the one that changed everything. Most people, Grandpa said, pay everyone else first, the landlord, the store, the tax man, and try to save whatever crumbs are left over at the end of the month, and there are never any crumbs. So Grandpa flipped it. The day money came in, before a single bill got paid, he took his savings off the top and hid it away like it never existed. Then he lived on the rest. It felt tight at first, he admitted, but you adjust fast, and the money you never see, you never miss. This one habit, done for 40 years, is the difference between a man who retires comfortable and a man who works until he cannot. Pay yourself first, always. Number 15. The envelope system kept him honest. Before payday even arrived, Grandpa knew where every dollar was going because he had it divided into envelopes. Groceries in one, gas in one, church in one, spending money in one. When an envelope was empty, that was it. The spending stopped. No borrowing from next week. No pretending. It was a simple physical system a child could understand, and that was exactly why it worked. There were no surprises at the end of the month, no wondering where the money went, because Grandpa had already told each dollar where to go before it had a chance to wander off. Budgeting, he said, is just deciding your money's future before your wants decide it for you. The envelopes never lied to him. Number 14. Always keep a go-to-hell fund. Grandpa kept a stash of cash, separate from everything else, enough to cover 6 months of living, and he never touched it for anything ordinary. He called it his go-to-hell fund because it was the money that let him look any boss, any landlord, any hard situation in the eye and walk away if he had to. A man without savings has to take whatever the world hands him, he said. A man with a cushion has choices. That fund meant he never had to stay in a bad job out of fear, never had to beg, never had to make a desperate decision because the rent was due. It was not really about the money. It was about the freedom the money bought him. Number 13, learn to live on one income. Even when both Grandpa and Grandma were bringing money in, they built their whole life around only one paycheck and banked the other entirely. It meant a smaller house, an older car, fewer luxuries than they could technically afford. But it also meant that when hard times came, and they always came, losing one income was an inconvenience, not a catastrophe. Everyone around them stretched to spend every dollar both earners made and lived one bad month away from disaster. Grandpa lived one bad month away from barely noticing. He understood that the trap was not low income. It was building a life you could only afford if everything went perfectly. Nothing ever goes perfectly, so he never bet on it. Number 12, always have a second skill. Grandpa worked at the mill, but he also fixed small engines on the side, mowers and outboards and whatever the neighbors dragged over. That second skill was insurance. When the mill cut hours in a bad year, the side work kept the lights on and food on the table. He never wanted his family's survival resting on a single employer who could let him go with 2 weeks' notice. A man with one income has one throat for the world to squeeze, he said. A man with two has options. He made sure his hands could always earn money in more than one way, and he taught his sons to do the same. Skills, he believed, were the one asset no layoff could take. Number 11, do not keep up with the Joneses because the Joneses are broke. Grandpa watched the neighbors with a kind of quiet amusement. New cars, new furniture, the latest of everything, always the picture of success. But Grandpa understood what most people miss. The glittering life next door was usually built on debt, financed to the hilt, one missed paycheck from collapse. The Joneses are not rich, he said. They are just louder about being poor. He felt no urge to compete because he was not measuring his worth against a driveway or a living room set. He measured it by what he owned free and clear and by how well he slept at night. Let them keep up appearances, he said. I would rather keep up my bank account. Number 10, buy land. Second pattern break, and this was the big one. Grandpa believed in land the way some men believe in religion. They are not making any more of it, he would say, tapping the table for emphasis. He scraped and saved and bought small parcels when they were cheap. A few acres here, a lot there, always paying cash, never mortgaging his future for it. Land did not break down like a car or go out of style like furniture. It just sat there, quietly, and grew more valuable while he slept. Some of it he rented out, some he just held. When he passed, those patient purchases had multiplied in value many times over. Real things, he said, real dirt you can stand on. That is, wealth that lasts. Number 9, make your money work while you sleep. Grandpa's proudest achievement was the little rental house 2 streets over, bought cheap, fixed up with his own hands, and rented to a good family for decades. Every month, whether he worked or not, whether he was healthy or sick, that house sent money to his mailbox. He called it his tireless employee, one that never called in sick and never asked for a raise. The goal, he taught me, is not to trade your hours for dollars forever, because your hours run out. The goal is to own things that pay you. He spent his working years building sources of income that did not depend on him showing up. By the end, his money worked harder than he did. Number 8, hold something real when the paper money wobbles. Grandpa lived through times when the dollar felt shaky and it left a mark on him. So he always kept a portion of his savings in things with weight and permanence. a roll of old silver coins, a little gold tucked away with the cash. He did not trust that paper money would always be worth what it claimed. Governments print more of it, he said, and every new bill makes the ones in your pocket worth a little less. The silver in that drawer had held its value for 1,000 years and would hold it 1,000 more. It was his hedge, his insurance against a world where the numbers on the money stayed the same, but the money itself quietly shrank. Number 7. Never carry a balance on borrowed money. Grandpa hated debt with a cold, clear-eyed hatred, especially the revolving kind. When easy credit came along, promising you could have it now and pay later, he saw the trap immediately. That interest, compounding against you month after month, was the exact same force that built his fortune. Only now it was working for the lender and against you. It was a snowball rolling downhill in the wrong direction, he said, and it would bury you. If he could not pay for something in full, he did not buy it, plain and simple. He would rather do without than owe. The borrower is servant to the lender, he used to say, and Grandpa was nobody's servant. Number 6. Your reputation is money in the bank. Grandpa was known all over town as a man whose word was iron. If he said he would do something, it was done. If he owed you $1, you had it by Friday. And that reputation, built over decades of small, honest acts, paid him back 100 times over. Men gave him deals, extended him trust, threw him work, and looked out for him, all because they knew exactly what kind of man he was. He understood that in a small community, your good name opens doors that money cannot. Be the man people trust, he told me, and you will never want for opportunity. Character, he said, is the one account that pays interest for your whole life. Number 5. Marry someone who shares your values about money. Third pattern. Break, and Grandpa said this was the most important financial decision he ever made. He and Grandma pulled in the same direction from day one. Neither one spent behind the other's back. Neither one chased status, and they built everything as a team. He had watched good men ruined not by bad luck, but by a partner who spent faster than they could earn, and marriages torn apart by fights over money. The person you marry, he said, will either double everything you build or spend it out from under you. And there is no in-between. Find someone who counts pennies the way you do, he told me, and you have already won half the battle before it starts. Number 4. Do not leave your family holding the bill. Grandpa made sure that when his time came, his death would not become a financial disaster for the people he loved. He had it all arranged, quietly, years in advance. The funeral was paid for. The affairs were in order. There were no debts left dangling, no scramble, no burden dumped on Grandma or the kids in their grief. He thought it was a man's final responsibility to make sure his passing cost his family tears and nothing more. Too many folks, he said, spend their whole lives providing and then leave a mountain of bills as their last act. Not him. He wanted his family to be able to mourn him in peace, without a single envelope of dread waiting in the mail. Number 3. Own a piece of the whole thing and never sell in a panic. Here is the secret that let Grandpa retire at 55, while his neighbors worked into their 70s. He put money, steadily and patiently, into owning small pieces of solid American businesses. And then he did the hardest thing of all. He left it alone. When the market crashed and everyone around him sold in terror, Grandpa did nothing. Or worse for their nerves, he bought more while it was cheap. He understood that the people who lose are the ones who panic, and the people who win are the ones who wait. Time in, not timing, he said. He let the decades and the dividends compound quietly, never touching it, until one day the numbers were big enough that work became optional. Number 2. Teach your children the value of $1, or the world will teach them the hard way. Grandpa knew that all the wealth in the world meant nothing if his kids grew up soft and helpless with money. So he taught them young. He made them earn their allowance, save part of everything, and understand where money came from and how easily it left. He showed them the coffee cans, the garden, the ledger. He wanted them to inherit not just his money, but his understanding, because money without wisdom, he said, vanishes in a single generation. Give a child cash, and you feed him for a year. Teach him how money works, and you feed him for life. His greatest inheritance was never the dollars. It was everything he knew about them. And finally, number 1. The real secret was that money was never the point. When we found the coffee cans and the ledger and the cash hidden in the book spines, we thought we had found Grandpa's fortune. But the real fortune was the man himself, the discipline, the patience, the quiet freedom he built one careful choice at a time. He never chased money for its own sake. He chased independence. He wanted to owe no man, fear no layoff, and answer to no boss he did not respect. Every penny he saved was really a purchase of freedom, and he bought it in bulk over a lifetime. He died owning his home, his land, his time, and his dignity, all free and clear. That was the secret Grandpa took to his grave. Money was just the tool. Freedom was always the goal. So here is my challenge to you. Pick just one of these this week. Start the coffee cans. Wait 24 hours before your next big purchase. Pay yourself first before a single bill. Then come back and tell me in the comments which one you chose, because I promise you Grandpa was not just being old-fashioned. He knew something the whole world spends a fortune trying to make us forget. He knew, and now you know too.